Well, hello there, and welcome again to Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. Welcome to the half-hour show. John Scholes right here. Lior Samfiru on your screen very shortly. Employment Lawyer at EmploymentLawyer.ca. You're always encouraged to reach out to Lior anytime with any questions after the show. Please do so. Back it up with an email. First, the phone number, as you probably have written down somewhere, or at least on your phone, 1-855-821-5900. Ask at EmploymentLawyer.ca or simply EmploymentLawyer.ca for the website for more information. Lots of stuff to get through in the show, as there always is over the course of this 30 minutes. We'll get to emails, we'll get to phone calls from some of our viewers, and we always have a main topic in the second segment. This week, it's going to be contractor confusion. 3 questions to know if you are actually an employee. It doesn't sound important, but it is massively important. So we'll deal that with that in just a bit. Lior, good to have you along for another week, pal. And we always start off with the case of the day. Week that was, you always get us warmed up nicely. So go for it, pal. It's all yours. What do you got?
Thanks, Johnny. Really great to be back to talk about employment law, to help our viewers to make sure that you understand your legal rights. I couldn't be talking about your legal rights if you didn't have any. Well, you do. You have substantial and extensive employment law rights. We have several statutes. We have court decisions. We have a whole gamut of legal rights and entitlements that every employee has. So you're maybe wondering, hey, is there a law that helps me if I lose my job? Or is there a law that helps me if I'm on a disability leave, or if I'm being mistreated, or if my job and compensation are changing? Well, the answer to all of those questions is yes, there is. There are laws, there are rights, and more importantly, there are things that you can do. And on the show, we'll tell you all these things. If you've ever wondered about employment law, about whether what your company is doing is legal or illegal, on the show we'll cover so many topics and try to answer all the questions that we can. But of course, in these 30 minutes, we can only get through so much. But beyond the show, very easy to reach out. If you want to talk about your specific matter, to ask some questions, to get help with your legal issue, very easy to reach me and my team. We'll give you that contact information throughout the show, so stay tuned for that. But let's get going. Let me tell you about a case that came across my desk very recently. I spoke with a gentleman who had been off on a disability leave for a few months. And was getting better slowly but surely. And finally, to his great delight, he got a clearance from his doctor to go back to work. By the way, no restrictions. He can go back to the way that he was. He was delighted. He provided his employer with that doctor's note saying, hey, I'm ready to come back to work. When can I start? I'm ready to go. His employer wrote him back very quickly and saying, well, we need to conduct our own medical assessment to make sure that you are in fact fit to return to work. So we're going to conduct that examination, so bear with us. We'll schedule that for you, and once you do that, if that clears you, you can come back to work. Well, he thought it was a bit strange because he already had his own doctor clearing him, but he figured, okay, I guess we'll do that. So a day passes, a few days pass, a week passes, 3 weeks pass, still no response from the company. No one's telling him anything. He contacts the company and says, well, what gives here? When am I going to come back to work? Oh, we're still working on setting this up. We'll get back to you. A couple more weeks pass. He finally calls me. And he wants to understand, well, what do I do here, Lior? Do I continue waiting? How long am I waiting? I could have been working. I need the money because, we all need to pay our bills. So here's the thing. Here's what I told him and here's what I did. So no, his employer, number one, does not have the ability to require an independent medical examination. They don't get to decide if he's fit to return to work or to hire someone to tell him that. If he has a doctor's note saying he's ready to come back to work, he can go back to work. It's as simple as that. Same with you at home. Your doctor decides if you can go off work, and your doctor decides if you can come back to work. No one else really gets to question that. Okay, so what they were doing is illegal. The other thing is, when an employee comes back to work, you can't just string them along. You have to bring them back right away at that point. You maybe get a few days to figure stuff out, but that's it. So what this employer was doing is illegal. Here's what I did. I contacted this employer in writing and I told him, hey, this is illegal. He expects to be back to work on Monday. Guess what happened? He was back to work on Monday. As soon as the company heard from me, they backed off. They realized that what they were doing is illegal, and he's back to work and everything is fine. But important reminders there. Again, that doctor's note, so powerful. Your doctor decides, your employer doesn't get to question that doctor. And of course, your employer can't string you along. If you're ready to come back to work after a medical leave, you should be going back to work right away.
And if you need any accommodations, that legally has to be taken upon the employer as well, right?
Yeah, so when you come back off from a medical leave, you may have limitations, restrictions. You may not be able to go back without any restrictions. You may need some accommodation, modified duties, modified hours. And if you have a doctor's note that says that, your employer has to make that happen. They have to provide that accommodation. They don't get to say no. They don't get to say, no, it's just too hard. We don't want to. Call us later. None of that. That would be a human rights violation. But just like I said before, it starts with that doctor's note.
I want to get to a quick viewer phone call, Lior. We'll listen to it and talk about it. So here we go. Listen up.
I work for a large corporation, and I've worked there for almost 14 years. Supervisory role. I had a meeting, and it was announced they were selling this location to a licensee, essentially, which means my nearest location to transfer to would be 54 kilometers away, an unpaid commute. I'm wondering what my rights are.
Well, obviously, this is a big deal. You just found out that because of some transaction, now your work location changes. Now you have to commute extra kilometers to get to work. It's going to change your day. So here's kind of a rule of thumb that I go by. If the extra commute, if you're being relocated, that extra commute is going to be more than an hour each way, an hour more than what you're doing right now, that potentially is a constructive dismissal. That's potentially illegal. Your employer, even though they're not doing this to pick on you, by changing the terms of your employment, so instead of commuting for 15 minutes, it's now an hour and 15 minutes, that is a constructive dismissal. You may be able to treat that as a termination. So it's not really about the number of kilometers that they moved away. It's about how is this going to affect you. If it's going to impact you 20 minutes, probably not. If it's going to be an hour or more, constructive dismissal. So this person may well have been constructively dismissed with this move. So the last question we would have to figure out in this situation is, well, how much severance should she be getting with this constructive dismissal? So we're going to go to the severance calculator tool. We're going to plug in the information because we want to see what we get. We're going to find out, of course, at EmploymentLawyer.ca. So here's what the severance calculator says. She's 48 years of age in a supervisory role, been there for 14 years. Company's not planning on paying her severance, but you see what they actually owe her is as much as 16 months severance, 1/6. That's how much severance she's owed, even though her company's not letting her go, because by moving her or moving the work location, it could be far enough that that could be a constructive dismissal.
All right, Lior, great stuff. We'll take a short pause. On the other side, it's going to be our main topic time, right? Contractor confusion, 3 questions you need to know the answer to if you're really an employee. That is on the other side as we continue more Ask a Lawyer here on CP24. Stay with us.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
Okay, and welcome back. Ask a Lawyer. This is CP24. John Scholes, Lior Samfiru, always reachable. You should make that phone call if you have any questions. The number right there, 1-855-821-5900. Scan the QR code. Send an email, ask@employmentlawyer.ca. Lior, it's time for the main topic, a good one this week, contractor confusion. 3 questions you need to know and ask if you are really an employee or not. The first one is, do you or your employer, both of you calling yourself a contractor, does that actually make it so legally? What do you think?
So this always shocks people, shocks individuals and companies. It does not matter what you call yourself or what someone else calls you. Just because you believe you're an independent contractor or the company that you work for says you're an independent contractor does not make you one. People get misclassified as contractors all the time when they really are an employee. So what matters is substance, not form. So calling yourself a contractor, signing a piece of paper saying you're a contractor, having the title of a contractor, that does not make you a contractor, not at all. What matters is the work that you do, how you do the work, who you do it for. Those are the things that actually would make you a contractor, not the title. And again, a lot of people say, well, look at this piece of paper, Lior. I signed it. It says, I am an independent contractor. Well, can't you read? Doesn't matter. If it was that simple, everyone can just be a contractor. Just sign a piece of paper. Doesn't work that way, so we don't really consider that at all.
A lot of people say, I don't see the big deal. We both agree to the workplace. So what are the red flags, if any, if you're misclassified?
Well, first of all, the reason why we have employment law is because employees have rights. Contractors don't really. So an employee has rights to overtime, vacation pay, severance pay, all kinds of entitlements. So what are the red flags that point to you actually being an employee that has been misclassified? Number one is if you work for one company. If you work for one company, you're generally likely to be an employee of that company, not a contractor. Who controls the work that you do? Do you control it? Do they control it? Do they tell you what to do? Well, if the company does that, you're probably an employee. The other thing is, do you have regular hours? A contractor doesn't have regular hours. They change, the contractor decides, so all kinds of things like that. But if you have regular hours, you're likely an employee. Another factor, of course, is how long have you been doing it? If you've only been doing it for a while and you're going to stop doing it, and maybe a year later you'll do more work for that company, maybe you're a contractor. But if you've been working for a while for this one company, guess what? You are likely an employee of that company. So what's the test? It's actually very, very simple. If you look like an employee and you act like an employee, yeah, you're not going to be surprised to find that you are an employee.
So if you're a contractor, let me ask you this one final question, Leo. If you're a contractor, can you get severance even though you're legally an employee?
So if you are someone that has been misclassified, they call you a contractor, you pay your taxes like a contractor, but you really are an employee, then of course you are owed severance. And that severance can be as much as 24 months pay. A company doesn't get to legally avoid paying you severance by calling you a contractor. Again, if it was that simple, everyone would be a contractor and then no company would ever have to pay severance. Doesn't work that way, right? Not even close. So if you're someone that has been misclassified, but you really are an employee despite what you're called, if they let you go, the company may say, we don't owe you anything because you're a contractor. Wrong. They misclassified you. You really are an employee and you're owed severance. And here's how you can find out right now. You can always call me if you're not sure if you're a contractor or an employee, but we have a tool for that as well. If you go to EmploymentLawyer.ca, we have a tool there that allows you to figure out if you're a contractor or an employee. So you click on that tool, you answer some questions, it's going to tell you if you're a contractor or an employee. It's an important tool to have and to know, because if you're doing this illegally, if you're calling yourself a contractor, not only is this an employment law issue, it could be a CRA issue as well. So you got to be very careful with that.
All right, good work, my friend. We got time to get another viewer phone call in there, so listen up and we'll hear it and talk about it. Here it comes.
My question's more on behalf of my employer. I know that there's an employee working at the company I work for, and he's been there for about 5 years, and I know that he's been disciplined, and the talk amongst, I guess, the other employees is that he has anger issues, and he's taken them out on employees. He has been disciplined. He has been suspended. On behalf of the employer, can they let this employee go?
Great question.
Fantastic. So first of all, with severance, they can let him go for any reason, whether he did something wrong or not, whether he was disciplined or not. If they pay severance, we call this a termination without cause. He can be let go no matter what. The real interesting situation is if they want to terminate him for cause and not pay severance. For that, they have to show that he in fact engaged in misconduct and that they disciplined him and that he's not getting it. He's still acting poorly, he's still mistreating people, then they can terminate for cause. But again, they have to do their work. They have to have proof that he did what he did, and of course they have to show prior discipline. It's a big deal if he mistreats people, if he has outbursts, or God forbid he's violent. That's never acceptable. So an employer should build up a proper case to terminate for cause in that situation.
All right, Leo, we're going to take a short break and then we're going to dip our toe in the other 50% of what you do with the firm as well. Your partner's on the other side. That is disability law. We'll cover that after a short break here on Ask a Lawyer on CP24. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
And we are back. Thank you so much for sticking around. Ask a Lawyer on CP24. We want to switch gears a little bit here. We're here with Lior. You know, he's got a whole team on the other side of the hallway doing disability law. And you can reach out in that regard as well. Same phone number, 1-855-821-5900. This time it's ask at disabilityrights.ca to reach out and double up with an email for sure. Lior, just walk us through briefly what they do on the disability side. Then I got a phone call and a follow-up question for that as well, pal.
John, we have a team, a whole team at the office dedicated exclusively to helping those that are really in need, those that have been denied or cut off disability benefits, whether it's short-term disability, long-term disability, or CPP disability benefits. With all those situations, it's when you're sick, when you need the help that you've arranged to have, and they don't want to give it to you. You're not sick enough. Or they say, well, you were sick, but now you're not sick. You can go back to work even though you know you're not able to come back to work. Happens all the time. It happens so much, in fact, that we need a whole team. We can't just have one or two lawyers. We need a whole team to deal with that. But here's the good news. As tough as this sounds, once our team gets involved, it gets resolved. And it doesn't get resolved years later. It gets resolved quickly. The insurance company will back off if they know we're involved, or they'll pay a compensation that they should have paid to begin with. So don't ever be afraid to pursue your entitlements. Don't be frustrated by the insurance company. Don't take their word for it. If you know you can't work, and your doctor knows you can't work, the disability insurer should be paying you. They shouldn't be denying you. They shouldn't be coming up with excuses to cut you off. Let us deal with it. Let us take the burden off you and make sure that you can focus on getting better while we arrange for you to have that compensation that you should have had to begin with.
Okay, Lior, we got a phone call in that regard. Let's listen up and talk about it. Here it comes.
What should you do if you're off work due to a mental health problem and the insurance company says, sorry, we're cutting you off? Is their appeal process your only option, or are you better off forcing yourself back to work?
How about neither?
Well, exactly. The answer is none of the above. And listen, you're much more likely to be cut off disability benefits or to be denied if you have a mental health type of a medical condition, because the insurance company says, we can't see that on the x-ray, so we don't believe you. Nonsense. Of course, illegal. But here's the thing. That appeal is nonsense. It's a waste of time. You're appealing to the same person that's already said, we're not going to give this to you. It's there to frustrate you. So no, the appeal is a waste of time. You're not going to do that. And of course, you're not going to go back to work if you're unable to work. You're just going to make yourself sicker. The third option is really the only option. Let's deal with it. Let us deal with the insurance company. Let us make sure that they back off, that they recognize your actual condition so that you can get paid and you can get better and healthy. Going back to work when you're not ready, never a good idea. And that appeal, so many people think that's the only option. Not only is it not the only option, you shouldn't do it at all. It's a waste of time. Let us deal with it instead.
All right, got a question for you, Lior. Never seen this question before, and I can almost guarantee this is not going to be the last time we see this. AI, artificial intelligence, told me that I didn't really have a case after being cut off long-term disability. Am I out of options?
John, everyone thinks now they have their own lawyer with them through AI. They ask ChatGPT a question, and, well, ChatGPT told me I have a case, I don't have a case, so what else do I need? Listen, and one day I may give you a different answer, but right now, as we speak, ChatGPT, AI cannot replace a lawyer, cannot replace the legal advice, the background that we have, the knowledge that we have, the knowledge of the court system, and the knowledge of the minutia of the law, okay? Not a good idea to try to get that expert opinion from AI. AI also has something called hallucinations, where AI can give you a false answer because it doesn't really know the right answer, and then you believe that the false answer is real. Please don't do that. AI is not replacement for legal advice, and certainly AI can't help you. If you follow AI's advice and you accept a bad severance offer, or you give up on your disability benefits because AI told you, you can't go back on that. You can't then go back and blame AI. Do the right thing, do the smart thing. Let's talk about your legal issue to make sure you get the right advice.
All right, we have nailed down the disability portion quite nicely this week, Lior. We're going to take a short break and come back with one more phone call on the employment side as we continue Ask a Lawyer here on CP24, so don't go anywhere.
Lost your job? Disability denied? Ask a Lawyer is here for you. Each week, experts from EmploymentLawyer.ca answer your questions. Visit cp24.com/askalawyer and watch Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 p.m. on CP24.
And welcome back to Ask a Lawyer. We're going to wrap up this week's show, Lior, with a phone call. Here it is.
A friend who he was employed, I think, 29 years. He finally received a notice of termination, and they offered him $15,000 as his severance. He's 62. I'm just wondering his options on this one.
Wow, John, that's not even close. Let's go to PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca. Let's plug in the information and let's see the real amount. So he's there for 29 years. That's a long time. 53 years of age, and was offered $15,000. You see, he's owed 2 years' pay. That's $140,000. Check it out for yourself. PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca.
Great stuff, Lior. That'll do it for this week. Reach out to Lior anytime at EmploymentLawyer.ca, and thank you for joining us on Ask a Lawyer, and we'll catch you again next time.